Welcome to Sumit video. We are having a quick look on becoming smart on Romans, the history of people. The ancient Rome began as a group of small villages. Rome began as a group of small villages, and then it finally grew and became what is Italy today. The river that helped this civilization is called Tiber, Tiber. The Romans were great and powerful later. The city of Rome is still a busy place, just as it was in ancient times. You can see the ruins of the Forum, which is like the amphitheater of the Greek civilization. You have the Colosseum and many other splendid Roman buildings. What you see here is the splendid buildings of Greeks. This is what is a splendid building of the Greeks. And then you have the gladiators. The Colosseum was a huge building in Rome where people went to watch wild beast shows. That is, you fight against a bull or you fight against a lion. And gladiator fights. Gladiator fights are great warriors who fight against each other till they die. The gladiators were armed with spears or small shields and swords. 50,000 people could sit and watch the fights in the arena. Lions and other wild animals were killed during the shows. They were fighting. This you are seeing is one gladiator fighting against other. This is a gladiator fight. And this is one of the lions, a pictorial representation of what used to be fought with or fought against in the shows in the Colosseum or Forum or arena. Latin language. The Romans spoke a language almost close to Latin. Roman children learned to write Latin by scratching out letters on wooden boards that were covered with wax. So a layer of wax will be on a wooden board, and with a sharp edged tool they scratch it so that the wax comes out and the letters will be formed. That is how the Roman children learned to write Latin. The Romans conquered a lot of places. They had a vast empire and they built a wall between Scotland and England to protect the boundary of their empire. So this is where the Africa, the Asia in between, this is where the Romans were ruling, the western side of the Europe. The Roman army. The Romans had the best army in the world. The soldiers conquered many countries and guarded the empire. The standard Roman army flap is what you are seeing here. Romans also had shoes. The soldiers had shoes that had spikes below. The famous Romans. The names of the Romans, if you know, one is Spartacus, who was a slave who led an army of slaves against the Romans. Spartacus was a slave who led an army of slaves against the Romans. Julius Caesar was a great general who ruled Rome. He was murdered. So Julius Caesar is famous not only in the play but in history also. And the month of July is named after Julius. Then you have Augustus, the month of August, was the first Roman emperor. After his death, he was made a god. Augustus was made a god. Julius Caesar was a great general. And then you have Ovid. Ovid was a Roman poet. He wrote many poems about myths and legends. And then you have Hadrian, who turned the empire and built walls and forts to guard it. Hadrian was a person in Rome responsible for having guarded the Roman Empire by building walls. Then the Roman roads. In peacetime, the Roman soldiers kept busy building roads. Roads were important for moving the army around the empire. Roman roads were usually very straight. Some are still used today. The roads are straight line roads.